The perfect Kung Fu Panda movie. Does it exist? Well, in short, no. But what we can do is first narrow down which of the 4 movies is the best out of the bunch and fix what is broken. Some movies will require more fixing than others, but hey, that's the name of the game. So not only are we going to be more or less ranking all the Kung Fu Panda movies, but we're also going to play some Bob the Builder, Handy Manny Mechanic over here, and fix what I feel needs to be fixed. This is definitely going to be a marathon, so grab your popcorn, soda, or whatever you want. Just kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. So without further interruptions, let's begin. Starting at the dead end of the street, we have Kung Fu Panda 4. Now, I don't think I have to do much convincing to anyone that this movie is complete garbage, but I will anyway, since we're doing the whole enchilada. Now, I want to say it's possible to justify some of the points here by saying they're extreme coincidences, but a lot of this is just a lot of bad takes and stupid writing. So the first and most obvious thing wrong with this movie, besides not having a special DreamWorks opening logo sequence, is the lack of the Furious 5. How the hell could you not add them? They have been with Po since the very beginning, helping him alongside his journey becoming the Dragon Warrior, who we know as today. Yes, I understand this movie is about Po training the next Dragon Warrior, but that doesn't automatically translate to them not being needed at all. Obviously, out of universe, we know DreamWorks and Universal just didn't want to pony up their wallets to pay for the entire cast to come back, but in universe, stating they're all on separate missions felt forced, which made me incredibly upset. The next beef I have is Po needing to find the next Dragon Warrior because Shifu says so. Like, I don't remember Oogway getting told that he had a time limit, so why does Po? It's also really awkward since in the last movie we see Po not only master Chi, but teach Kung Fu to the entire Panda army. What I'm getting at here is Po is already a teacher, so it just feels like he's relearning the same lessons over and over. You could argue that with this movie, he's training a specific student, one that will become his successor, which would be great if the supposed Dragon Warrior, the next one at least, was worth the wait. And spoiler alert, it wasn't. From the moment we see Zen, you already know she's going to not only betray Po, but be the next Dragon Warrior by the end of the film. Which gets into my next point, the movie is way too predictable. So for one, you see she's after the Staff of Wisdom, she's a wanted criminal, she describes to Po she was taken in by a local, and describes the chameleon down to a T. Like, I don't know how much more obvious it can get here that she's going to betray Po and then redeem herself at the end. It all just felt like a lose-lose. Now, when she eventually does betray Po, she literally switches up in 2 seconds. I'm not even joking, by the way. She literally switches back to Po's side in 2 seconds. Again, you could make the argument she wasn't expecting for the chameleon to try and get rid of Po, but there's literally no way. She's been with her since she was a child. On top of that, the chameleon literally debunks her by saying someone always gets hurt, and it's obviously not going to be her or the chameleon, so who does that leave? Wanna know what else is a lose-lose? The villain, who is only feared because she threw a bear down some stairs. That's it. We go from Tai Lung's prison escape to Lord Shen's kung fu weapon, to Kai stealing Chi and battling Master Oogway in the spirit realm, to this. Like, are you serious? It's just so underwhelming. Her motivation, her story, is complete nonsensical. So the chameleon wants to take over China because she was turned away from every kung fu training hall because of her size. As we literally have a praying mantis in the same franchise. Like, even in universe, it feels like a total mockery to the previous films. What also tickles my noggin is how does Zen even know Kung Fu? And not just good Kung Fu either. She's borderline fighting on par with Po in some scenes. If Zen was this great, why doesn't the chameleon just steal her Kung Fu? Or better yet, have her teach it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Even more so, why does she even want Kung Fu? She's shown in the beginning of the film using Tai Lung's size to her advantage and destroying their quarry, so like, what gives? That's why the previous films worked so well. Tai Lung wanted the Dragon Scroll to fulfill his destiny. Shen wanted to escape his destiny of being defeated by a Kung Fu Panda, so he committed genocide. Kai wanted vengeance on Master Oogway by trying to erase all he has created. I know what Tai Lung wanted, I know what Shen wanted, I know what even Kai wanted. but I don't know what the chameleon wanted, nor what she was expecting to happen, which perfectly aligns to this movie's next mistake. The chameleon stealing every master villain's chi. Big mistake. Po already knows all their moves, how to counter them. That's why they lost in the first place. So becoming a carbon copy of all the past failures who fought Po, of course, isn't going to work. Like, you literally see Po describing each one of her transformations, from Master Bull's Horns of Doom to Master Wolf's Fangs of Fury, like it's a virtual playbook. And don't even get me started on her giving Po the staff back just to be tube-tapped in the end. There were also a lot of character derailment and so many unnecessary scenes to me that just felt like total filler, such as Lee and Ping going after Po because they were worried about him taking on a shape-shifting sorceress or whatever, despite Lee literally fighting off Shen's army and Kai's army. It's just so annoying seeing him getting so nerfed so hard to even fighting bar thugs. It's just not even laughable. It's just sad. It's almost as if they don't even know their own characters anymore. Especially when talking about all the past villains as well. When I first heard Tai Lung, Shen, and Kai were all coming back for this movie, I was hyped. But upon seeing what was the final product, as I said, it was all nothing but character derailment and disappointment. Like, you could literally remove Shen and Kai and absolutely nothing would change. Because why? They don't even have one line. Not one. They don't do anything. This movie was on such a tight leash budget, it seems they really didn't want anyone coming back. Honestly, I'm surprised that they didn't make the cast they did hire for this film all AI. You could tell this movie was all corporate and had no love or life or passion put into it. I genuinely felt this movie was completely unnecessary and contradicts so many points in the Kung Fu Panda universe. It gets even worse when you look at things behind the scenes. It's such a shame we didn't get to see co-director Stephanie Stein's vision for this movie, because it would have been a completely different story than what we got entirely. For starters, we would have gotten to see a heartfelt reunion scene between Tai Lung and Shifu, with Shifu being kidnapped by the chameleon, and Po having to play rescue, but ultimately, this was scrapped, because anything good about this movie has to walk the plank. An entire Q&A with co-director Stephanie Stein has also been released, so if you're interested in checking that out, I'll link it down below in the description. But the main takeaway from this is that everything good this movie had to offer, like the chameleon having a more darker background, was scrapped just because. And the main problem being Mike Mitchell, the director, having way too much creative control. I'm also not thrilled by the marketing of this movie either, since Mike Mitchell promised every character from the Kung Fu Panda franchise would be returning, which for one, isn't true, because the Panda army is nowhere to be seen. Where's Grandma Panda? Where's Master Oogway? But still, even with that being ignored, while every important character does return, they don't do anything with them. They're just placeholders, and nothing more. I also neglected to mention Tai Lung here and how they handled him, which they essentially just gave him a subtle redemption, where he's not a fan of Po, but instead respects him, which I guess could work, if they showed us something pretty meaningful on how he came to that conclusion, but as is, I'm not convinced. I mean, this dude literally destroyed the valley and almost killed his adopted father for the Dragon Scroll, so I'm all for a Tai Lung redemption if it's handled the right way. However, there's no way I'm buying Lord Shen's change of heart. He was far too prideful. I don't see him ever being genuinely redeemed. You could maybe make the argument for Kai, so I won't put up too much of a fight, but yeah, Shen, not so much. I just wish they showed us even a slimmer of how Tai Lung came to that change, because showing us absolutely nothing is just downright criminal. While I'll throw them a bone for at least giving him some dialogue, it's still pretty sad to watch him get nerfed and ultimately be one-tapped by the chameleon. It's like the chameleon is only a threat because the plot demands it, which in turn helped cause this movie's downfall. I can't even say the animation adds any value to the film either, since it's at best a smidge better than Kung Fu Panda 3. The difference is so minimal, it's pretty much equivalent to playing those spot the difference games you'd find on Facebook. So needless to say, Kung Fu Panda 4 is a super fast-paced, predictable character derailing filler movie that serves no point but to mock the previous adaptations. Anyways, I think I pretty much have gone over everything wrong with Kung Fu Panda 4, so now we can get into the fixing side of things. So let's start the story like this. If you want to transition Po from Dragon Warrior to essentially the next Master Oogway, we need to have a reason for that to happen, because just hearing Master Shifu say it's time for a change feels incredibly forced. Instead, tell Po, with all his teachings he learned in the last movie, he needs to start taking a more leadership approach, but also learning not to take on everything by himself, essentially giving the theme of looking past himself, the future, and ultimately passing the torch to the next Dragon Warrior. What I'm getting at here is that by having Po take on the role of essentially replacing Oogway, it also sets up Shifu's character arc to come to a complete close. We'll get back to this later. Next, let's talk Zen's introduction. You can have her barging into the Valley of Peace, requesting to speak with Po and the rest of the five, because yes, they're going to be in this movie, no question about it. Instead of Zen trying to steal the Staff of Wisdom, have her make up a story that her city was destroyed by Tai Lung. Except in this event, Zen will not tell them that it's actually the chameleon to keep the illusion of confusion. This will immediately trigger an investigation, leading to the five and Po to follow Zen in hot pursuit to Juniper City, where part of it is destroyed. This is where you can have Tigress and some of the five picking up some red flags about Zen, maybe the wanted poster or something like that. This can cause a subplot between Po being too trusting and Tigress being wary, but ultimately with Po being the leader, he gets the final call. While all this is happening, the chameleon can shapeshift into Shen and Kai, destroying other nearby villages. As a result, Po would send and split up the five to each village to investigate, so that way it just leaves Po and Zen to build their arc. Here we learn Zen's backstory of having to live in the gutter and doing anything she can to survive. All this leads up to Po being tricked and betrayed when he ends up finding out that this isn't Tai Lung's fighting style and seeing the lizard-like tracks. Once Po figures out this isn't Tai Lung's style, she traps Po, but this time with a bottom lid so he can't get out. This will in turn allow Po to give Zen the Staff of Wisdom, which he hands the staff to the chameleon, just like in the original, but with a twist. The chameleon won't be able to perform Kung Fu due to a chi disruption that she acquired while she was being attacked trying to defend her village by bandits who knew the art of Kung Fu. So that way, when she goes to every local training hall, she would still be turned away, but not because she was too small, but because of her damaged chi. This would in turn allow her to look into sorcery and magic in place of Kung Fu. So as punishment, she would make the world feel as helpless as she once did. So in this version of events, she'll be able to train Kung Fu but not perform it. I think this fits perfectly because it gives the community a clear motive on why she wanted Kung Fu in the first place and a backstory to go along with it. As for Zen, she explains to Po she betrayed him because the chameleon offered her a fortune and sanctuary to escape the gutter more or less, as she did in the original. Once the backstories conclude, we can have the chameleon summon every villain from the spirit realm, not to drain them, but to put them into mind control, and essentially use them to perform Kung Fu and ultimately take over the world. Since it's been clearly shown and stated, the chameleon possesses some pretty powerful and old magic. So powerful in fact, it would take 10 Dragon Warriors to break it. Not even Po could damage it, he had to dig under it to get out. You could argue he broke out of the metal cage debris at the end, but I think it's also fair to assume that the magic wasn't as strong since the cage was split up into parts. So using this as an example should point to the idea that the chameleon should be powerful enough to take control of their minds. Once the five reach the same conclusion as Po that the damage wasn't caused by the past villains, they begin to return back to Juniper City. With Po also trapped and the past villains under mind control, the chameleon breaks the Staff of Wisdom, forever leaving the door to the spirit realm open, meaning the past villain army should be immortal. In short, Po wouldn't be able to skadoosh them back to the spirit realm since they just come back over and over after getting defeated. On the way back, the five see a giant portal opening and spirits begin floating out of it. This is when the chameleon disguises herself as Po and rushes to the five, putting on the same persona and voice as Po. While Mantis, Monkey, Viper, and Crane are quick to greet this fake Po, Tigress senses something's off and backs up at the last second before seeing the chameleon draining their kung fu. While she sends her men to imprison the four, Tigress escapes back to the Jade Palace to inform Shifu of what's going on. In the meantime, Po is shocked to see his friends trapped and begins to apologize to them for getting them into this mess and trying to take on everything by himself. They'd all have a heartwarming moment while also trying to figure out a way out of the magic binded cages. Tigress would have made it back to the Jade Palace to get Shifu. He'd tell the valley and gather everyone who'd be willing to help rescue the Dragon Warrior the same way he saved them. This is where you can draw some parallels to the third and first movie, with the Panda Army willing to help with everything Po taught them, including Ping and Li. Knowing it's a battle of magic and sorcery, Shifu would likely bring along every scroll Oogway had on the matter, because I'd be hard-pressed to believe, out of all the time Oogway has been around the block, he must have encountered some beings with similar abilities. Once the army reaches Po and the others, the Panda Army, along with the rest of the group, would make their move, giving Shifu time to rescue the rest of the five by using magic of his own to break the enchantment cages. As he goes to get Po out, he is face to face again with Tai Lung. Now, keep in mind, this would be mind-controlled Tai Lung, so Shifu would try to converse with him, only to get bloodlusted Tai Lung death responses instead. All while this is happening, Po is trying to convince Zen to help him escape. The five are battling Shen and Kai, along with the Panda Army fighting the Lizard Army, along with the rejects from the streets, aka the Zen Street family from the original. So this gives an epic shot of everyone fighting on the battlefield. Now the next major sequence I'm going to have may be pretty shocking to a lot of you, but bear with me here. But remember when I said in the beginning how Shifu's character arc would come to a complete close? Well, here goes. So when Tai Lung is battling Shifu here, you can have pretty much any character, whether it's Kai or Shen. I'd say Kai, just because it would make a lot more sense this way. But anyways, Kai is going to launch the giant chameleon tower with his chains right at Shifu and Tai Lung. Right before it hits them, Shifu will shove Tai Lung out of the way, only allowing the rock to crush him. Or the chameleon's base, or whatever you call it. It's going to be rubble anyway by the time it hits the ground, but that's besides the point. Once Shifu is down for the count on the ground, this will give Tai Lung the edge to break out of the curse, or mind control, or whatever, allowing Tai Lung to have a meaningful redemption. Say what you want, but when rewatching the first Kung Fu Panda movie, you can tell Tai Lung has some level of hesitant before ultimately trying to kill Shifu before Po comes in. Now, before anyone says anything, yes, Tai Lung would just respawn from the spirit realm, so why would Shifu save him? Well, that's the point. Shifu sacrificed himself full well knowing that to show he still cared about Tai Lung, but also for Tai Lung to realize the same. So I feel this would set a pretty bleak tone for the rest of the movie. You know, Shifu being gone. With this, Tai Lung has the power amp he needs to break the curse and fight back. All while this is happening, Po promises he will help Zen and give her a chance, and that it's still not too late to do the right thing, that the chameleon doesn't care about her. But before she could answer, it would be too late. Tai Lung charges the cage, and Po and Tai Lung together break it open. Po would go to Shifu, realize he's barely alive, tells Po that his time has come, similar to Master Oogway, which you could have Po look to Shifu's hand and see Oogway's old broken staff from the first movie. Drawing even more parallels to the first movie, Shifu indirectly tells Po to be himself, but also take on the Oogway role, coming to his own conclusion. That way he needs to find a new Dragon Warrior on his own. As of for the final battle, Po could combine both broken staff, using his mastery of Chi to repair it, not just the staff, but the Spirit Realm Ripple Portal as well. So all the reanimations would go back to the Spirit Realm and stay there. Now this brings me to, what is Zen going to do? How is she going to redeem herself out of this mess? Because with Shifu dead, and yes, Shifu would stay dead, trust me, it would have a lot more emotional impact than keeping him alive would, but obviously Po is not going to be as forgiving with this, neither is the Five. So what we could do here is have the chameleon try to pull a Lord Shen and just try to sacrifice her group by perhaps getting caught in an explosion, maybe a magic bomb explosion or something. That way it could also bring some parallels to the second movie, you know, some nice symbolic moments. With this, Zen activates her betrayal from the chameleon, shows some level of kung fu and skill by saving Po and everyone's life, shows the potential she has. They ask where she learned that, which she could explain she had to develop her own fighting style, similar to kung fu to survive on the streets or whatever. So that way you can still keep Zen as the next dragon warrior in due time, making Po come to that conclusion on his own. As for the loose ends, the chameleon would just explode on her own, not taking anyone out thanks to Zen. The chameleon would also go to the spirit realm, Po and Tigers would have their moment, Tai Lung would of course get his full reunion with Shifu before going back into the spirit realm himself, which he'll joke to Po and everyone that he'll keep Shifu company in the spirit realm, leaving all he has taught to Po, closing the book for Shifu's story, and Po training the next dragon warrior, ultimately transitioning into the next Oogway, but in his own way. Overall, pretty good emotional story. Obviously, this is only my idea of a perfect Kung Fu Panda 4 movie. Feel free to let me know down below on what you changed and why. Moving on to the next movie on our ranking, we have Kung Fu Panda 3. While it's a million miles better than the fourth and won't require a ton of fixing, it still has a few things that I'd like to change. I really want to hit this home though. I don't think Kung Fu Panda 3 is a bad movie by any means, and I would still be willing to say it's a good movie and that it's a fitting end to the franchise. So any complaints I have are going to be pretty tame to the last movie. The first thing I want to say is I absolutely adore Kai. He had an amazing theme, design, it's all 5 stars, but the main gripe I have is how does nobody remember who he is? The dude literally led an army alongside Master Oogway, the most iconic figure in all of Kung Fu, so using him as a forgotten character just for the memes just doesn't sit right with me. Which brings me to my next change. The movie is too lighthearted. It gets vastly irritating, especially when you watch 2 and 3 back to back. Like when you watch Po's dad's reveal at the end of the second film, things got pretty crazy to say the least. So when we finally see them reunite after a couple decades, it didn't feel as rewarding and real because of how goofy the scene is. It's like the writers have to insert a joke every 2 seconds and can't let the emotion sink in. You could maybe make the argument Po has always been a goofball, but not when it comes to his backstory and heritage. Po literally got smacked up by a Shen soldier, let Shen himself get away, and admitted he'd die to find out the truth, although he'd prefer not to. All in all, it just felt like a fever dream rather than reality. Speaking of Po and Lee's reunion, let's quickly go over the other pandas. While I think most of them are pretty funny and adorable, there's not a lot of depth to them. They all just seem like carbon copies of each other, almost as if you just clicked the copy and paste button over and over again. Probably the biggest gripe for me would be the retcon on Po being chosen as the Dragon Warrior. In the first movie, we were told Po wasn't a chosen one, so to speak. There was nothing special about him, just a big, fat panda who loves kung fu and food. No special ingredient required. However, in the third movie, Oogway reveals to Po he knew all along that he'd eventually be the savior, he'd beat Tai Lung, Shen, and Kai. All of this pretty much contradicts the theme of the first movie. Getting to the final parts, which are more or less just nitpickings, I feel Shifu felt a little odd, like I felt like it was kind of weird how he didn't have much mastery of Chi at this point. I also find being able to just use Oogway's Chi can bring you back to the mortal realm somewhat strange. It just makes death in Kung Fu Panda feel not meaningless, but unbalanced. And as much as I loved Po's sacrifice into the spirit realm, it doesn't feel as emotionally impactful because he just uses Oogway's staff to come back. It just sucks because I really liked the final battle in the spirit realm, so you'd either have to make Po returning to the mortal realm more impactful, or you'd have to scrap it completely. So with that out of the way, now we can get into my fixes. So first, have Kai returning not be as simple as just taking Oogway's Chi. Make the process of returning to the mortal realm more complex. Maybe have Kai somehow have to get someone on the outside to give their mortal Chi up, giving him the opportunity to be able to return to the mortal realm so he'd have a hypothetical alive body. Once he returns, have him steal Chi to replenish his former strength. This dude fought alongside Oogway. His name needs to carry some serious weight. The dude needs to be truly on par with Oogway. He needs to be obviously feared, and not just by 2 random NPCs on a farm. Once Kai makes landfall, you can still have him steal Kung Fu Master's Chi. Shifu would still send Crane and Mantis to investigate, except this time they actually do reconnaissance only, but still manage to get caught by Kai in the end, and are easily absorbed. The reunion between Po and Lee would be as serious as it needs to be. Lee could even bring something that ties him to Po. Regardless, it's proven they're father and son, not just because they look alike. That was dumb. Po would of course go back to the Panda Village, but before he does, he could get more of an idea of Chi from Shifu, because Shifu should know more than he let on about Chi than just a simple flower bloom. Shifu and the five would still battle Kai and lose without much of a fight. Kai destroys the Jade Palace, Tigress would warn Po, but will end up saying his strength is truly a force to be reckoned with, and that he'll have no chance of winning. Once Po would reach the village, we'd meet the pandas, which will consist of pandas who have more traits to them. You could even have an evil panda who is responsible for bringing back Kai in the first place. Anyways, everything would play out the same. Po would find out Lee lied, he trains the pandas, all is the same until the Kai battle. Here Po would try to skadoosh Kai, but isn't able to because Kai is so dang strong. So he's easily ragdolling Po, and will have the upper hand for most of the fight. It's here at the end where we see Kai about to take out Po, and the panda army heals Po, giving him Chi, as they once did many years ago. Here you could still have Po master Chi, beat Kai without going to the spirit realm. As much as it would be at the cost of some pretty cool moments, like Po seeing Uwe again, it isn't at all necessary, but as I said, I do really like the spirit realm battle, so the only thing I can think of is Po could skadoosh himself as he originally did, the pandas and everyone would save him, but when he meets Uguay, he could learn the only way he could return is if someone on the outside has to give their life or Chi for him to return, just like Kai. Immediately following this, everyone would be mourning Po, feeling completely lost without him. This is where you could have Lee step up, saying he knows Po has been well taken care of by Ping, and he couldn't be more happier with how his son turned out. Of course, this would set for a really big moment, having Lee sacrifice himself after having just been reunited with Po. It would really give Kung Fu Panda 3 that dark tone and emotional impact it needed from the last movie. Po would of course mourn his father, train the pandas and everyone else as he did in the original story, giving us a good wrap up to the third movie. Like I said in the beginning, I personally don't count Kung Fu Panda 3 as a bad movie. I think it's a good movie for what it is, and this is just my way of trying to further improve upon an already good film. Whereas, with the next movie coming up, I have Kung Fu Panda 1, the original movie. I don't have to really take out my hammer much at all. The movie is outstanding, not perfect, but it's pretty close. The movie does a great job introducing us to every part of the story, making Po out to be a hopeless fat loser who works at a noodle shop with his adopted dad, loves kung fu, all that great stuff, showing us a fantastic sequence of Tai Lung escaping the most secure prison in all of China, literally being outnumbered 1 to 1,000. A bolted down lock system, like the movie makes it pretty darn clear just how much you should fear this dude. I absolutely love how Po was chosen all by happenstance for the role of Dragon Warrior. It really showed that he was the direct opposite of Tai Lung. Tai Lung was told from the very beginning he was destined for greatness, had a natural gift for kung fu, while Po was portrayed as a big fat panda who had no chance at all from the start. So when we see these two philosophies clash, it's an amazing battle. The incredible animation and choreography really shines through. As a matter of fact, all the fights we see in this movie are top tier. Seeing the five get pretty much no dip by Tai Lung really showed Po just how much of a threat Tai Lung was, even with Shifu's teachings. Which perfectly transitions me to talk about the only nitpicky problem I have with this movie, and that is Po pretty much just being able to scale to Tai Lung with seemingly minimal effort and time. As much as I love this movie, this point can't be ignored. Po literally trains for less than a few hours and is already past Tai Lung's level, only because he sees everything to his advantage as food. This coupled with the fact that each strike Tai Lung lands on Po does borderline no damage, almost as if Po is indestructible to him. The only thing I change is try explaining more on Po's training and maybe have him strategize more rather than just a simple Wuxi finger hold. Having this just makes a victory feel unearned. Now, I'm not saying take the Wuxi finger hold out completely, just make Po use his head a little bit more. It would also be a great way to show Master Shifu and the late Master Uguay what he's capable of, rather than just Po ignoring durability and giving him the win just because of a one-shot kill move. Other than that, I think Kung Fu Panda would be a perfect movie with no flaws. I absolutely hands down love Tai Lung. He's my favorite villain, and while he may not have as much depth as Shen, he still fulfilled his role in the story perfectly. His fight with Shifu was also to me the best fight in the series, just because of how powerful and impactful it is. The feeling is so great that it almost feels as if you're there with the characters. When Shifu apologizes to Tai Lung and he actually stands there and has to think about it, you really feel that hesitation in his heart. His pain, his hard work and dedication, how much he put into becoming the Dragon Warrior. All this aligns perfectly with Shifu and his mistake, with giving Tai Lung only one purpose in life. So it's no surprise that after years and years of blood, sweat, and tears he put into something just for him to be denied. As crazy as it sounds, I don't entirely blame Tai Lung for what he did. Which gets into the big question, should Tai Lung have been the Dragon Warrior? Yes, but no. You see, it's Shifu's fault for only giving Tai Lung one goal in life, being the Dragon Warrior, when it wasn't his call. But it's also still not right for Tai Lung to rampage the way he did. It shows he lacks a pure, innocent heart, which is what made him incapable of being the Dragon Warrior. Now, with a redemption arc, could he be an open candidate if Zen wasn't going to be chosen? Well, it's possible, but unlikely, since he's in the spirit realm and likely doesn't want to return. But that's just my speculation. Anyways, concluding the first movie, I love the theme of there's no secret ingredient, the symbolism of Po training, even if it is a bit redundant. What else can I say, other than the movie is an absolute classic and will forever be held in high regards. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the closest you'll get to a perfect Kung Fu Panda movie without almost touching or fixing anything. I give you Kung Fu Panda 2. I know it probably doesn't come as a big surprise, but what can I say? It's absolutely amazing. I honestly don't know where to start. From Po's backstory to him and Tigress's moment, there's just so much depth to everyone and everything in this movie. Let's just start with Lord Shen. He's a phenomenal villain. Gary Oldman delivers his lines flawlessly and really makes you feel Shen's presence as a villain. Shen wanted to seize all Kung Fu by building a weapon that would just do that, killing Kung Fu. However, it was foretold to Shen that a warrior of black and white would stop him, so in response, this psychotic peacock literally committed genocide, trying to eliminate every panda from the face of the earth, which ties in with Po's heritage, linking Shen to Po. When we see Po have his vision of the massacre, it really hits home, and you feel for Po, and admire his determination to find out the truth from Shen, even at the cost of death. This darker tone really helps shape Kung Fu Panda into its own animal and creates phenomenal storytelling. Every part of this movie is interesting and intriguing, not a frame goes by where your eyes aren't glued to the screen. Especially when you see Po and Tigress about to throw down, only for Tigress to hug him, showing him a side of Tigress we've never seen before. A caring friend. Po mastering inner peace is the lesson of this story, to not forget about the past, but move past it, and not let the past dictate his future. It's such a powerful message, and it's why I feel it's miles above Kung Fu Panda 1. I even appreciate all the little details like Po's talk with his dad about his story, the infiltration into Shen's compound, and his stance on mastering inner peace, ultimately defeating the Kung Fu killing weapon. It's just a beautiful moment. I can't even say it enough. The scene of him catching the cannonballs and taking down Lord Shen not only closes the door on Shen as a character, but the prophecy of his defeat by a warrior of black and white. From start to finish, Kung Fu Panda 2 is a must-watch. When you see the ending of Po's father surviving the massacre, you're left with nothing but hype and perfectly sets things up for the third movie. Now, with all this glazing, I'm sure you're wondering, what would I change? Well, one teeny tiny thing, and it's a big nitpick. Emphasis on big. But I'd like to see Shifu involved just a smidge more, because when he appears at the end, it's kind of an eye roller, like almost if he only appeared because the plot demanded it. Obviously, he doesn't do anything drastic, so it's not at all a big deal and can be excused, but still. Other than that, I think this movie is the best Kung Fu Panda movie by far, and isn't likely to change ranks for me, since they don't really make movies like this anymore, which is a shame because it's such a phenomenal story, rather than a super fast-paced action-filled scene like Kung Fu Panda 4. It just doesn't give us enough time to really set things up like Kung Fu Panda 2 does, and it's why it will probably stay on top for me. I understand some people may feel this movie is too dark, but I feel it's justified. Using this theme really proves just how much of a bad beginning Po had, but it didn't define him from accomplishing his goals and himself as a character. Say what you want about Kung Fu Panda 2, but I think it deserves to stay on top until the end of time, maybe even beyond that. Alright, hopefully you all enjoy what I had to say on each Kung Fu Panda movie and my changes. If not, let me know down in the comments what you disagree with. I'd love to know your thoughts. With all that said, I'll catch you on the next list. Take care, see you all soon, bye bye.